Do we have any questions? Yes, right there. Hang on, the mic's not on.
Why don't you let her hold the mic then? Go ahead. Let her.
How would you control spending in Sacramento and Washington?
Well, let me start with Sacramento, and then I'll turn it over, John, for Washington, D.C. So we have, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, a government we cannot afford. This government is 80% bigger than it was just 10 years ago. We spend 80% more today than we did 10 years ago, and the size of the bureaucracy, meaning the number of people who work for the state of California, is up by 28% over the last 10 years. Does anyone think our state works 80% better? Are our schools 80% better? The answer is no. So we have to do a number of things. We first and foremost have to reduce the size of the bureaucracy. There are 345,000 people who work for the state of California. Those civil servants retire at 55 with full salary and full health care benefits till the day they die. So we have got to eliminate at least 10% of the bureaucracy, which is 30 to 40,000 jobs. I feel badly for those people, but I feel worse for the 250,000 Californians who's lost their job in the last 3 months. The second thing we need to do is we need to deploy technology to reduce the cost of government. This is something we do in business every day. Those of you who run businesses, you know next year you have to do the same amount for 10% less, or you got to do 10% more for the same amount. And this is a discipline we need to instill in Sacramento. And of course, the way we mostly do that is through technology. So we've got to do things like consolidate purchasing across all our government agencies for a savings of roughly $400 million. We should deploy all our health and welfare benefits via electronic benefits cards. We're one of only 10 states who still issues paper checks and paper food stamps. So we need to change this. Here's another idea for you. You know how we renew our vehicle registration once every 2 years? What if once every year? What if we did it once every 2 years? Would save the state $1 billion a year. So these are the kinds of things that we need to do. Actually, I got to let John take a brief crack at the Washington, D.C. spending.
First of all, we've got to restore some trust and confidence on the part of the American people in the Congress of the United States. Last poll I saw that 19% of the American people approve of Congress. I have not met them, except as I've said many times, they are blood relatives and paid staffers are the only ones that I know. And it is a crisis of confidence now. And one of the ways to do that is to eliminate the wasteful earmarked pork barrel spending that's going on and continues to go on in both parties. I'd like to give you a little straight talk. One of the major reasons why we lost in 2006 and 2008 is because we Republicans betrayed our conservative, fiscal conservative base by letting spending get completely out of control. And when we did that, these didn't become Democrats, but some became independent and some became just apathetic. And so we've got to restore that confidence. Right now, I just, on a BlackBerry saw, there's an ongoing investigation of more corruption as associated with this earmarked pork barrel process. There are former members of Congress residing in federal prison because of it. And if I sound passionate about it, I think it's an honorable profession. And I don't like it. I don't like it when I see my taxpayers who spend their hard-earned dollars and send it to Washington to see it spent, $1.7 million of it for pig odor research in Iowa. Okay? We laugh and we cry when we see these things. And I'll tell you, I'll see members of Congress stand up and say, this is a worthy project. Fine, if it's worthy, have it authorized, have it compete with every other project. Don't have it dictated by your power in Washington, D.C. So, and frankly, I don't feel like waiting from the crumbs of the table of members of the Appropriations Committee. I never have and I never will. But so, look, is it going to balance the budget? No. but we need to eliminate that. In the last omnibus spending bill, it was, quote, only $9 billion. Only. What? What are you saying? But the second thing that's got to be done very quickly, and I'll stop, but this is you raised probably one of the most important issues of the day, and that is we have to reform Social Security and Medicare. They are unsustainable. They are unsustainable because if you look at the trust fund, which just reported out a couple of weeks ago, there's something like $12 trillion of unfunded liability. That means debt that we have to pay off, and some $40 trillion in the Medicare trust fund. We're going to have to reform it. Now, the last time Social Security was reformed, Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, the conservative Republican and the liberal Democrat, sat down at the table. Social Security was about to go bankrupt, and they came to an agreement. Why don't we try that again in Washington? Why can't we sit down across the table, ready to make concessions, but with the long-term interest of future generations of Americans as our uppermost priority? And that's what we're going to have to do if we're going to restrain spending and not do to our children and grandchildren what has not been done to any generation in America's history, and that's give them a nation that's worse off than the one that we inherited.
Another question. Yeah, right there in the center. So he needs a microphone. Of course, I picked someone right in the center row that's going to be hard to get all the way through. I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
And I'm going to ask a question back here, too, so start thinking.
Part of our economic issues deal with the border and immigration. How do you intend to deal with that?
We have to stop the flow of illegal immigration into this country. We have to secure the border. And I believe ultimately we have to hold employers accountable for hiring only documented workers. Because I think you can build a fence 60 feet high, and as long as the lure of jobs are here, illegal immigrants will try to come. And that's why we have to hold employers accountable. The other thing we must do is we must stop this notion of sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities are in direct violation of federal immigration law, and they simply can't stand. Now, I would also say we can't lose the fact that legal immigration into this country has been a part of our country's heritage and is an incredible economic opportunity for California. We have the most to gain and the most to lose from not having exactly the right immigration policy. So I want to make sure that we have a group of entry-level, low-skilled individuals who we let legally into this country to work in our restaurants, to work in the agricultural fields in the Central Valley, whether that's through a guest worker program or otherwise. And then, of course, at the very highest end, where I come from a technology company, we need those PhDs and computer scientists in math and physics and chemistry. So we must secure the borders, but we can't forget that legal immigration has made this state great. So thank you for that.